Hi, it's author Bryan Alaspa again, doing another one of my virtual readings or discussions about my book. And the time has come to talk about the book that has, almost entirely on its own, become my best-selling novel. That would be Rig, a novel of terror by Bryan W. Alaspa. Yes, many of you have downloaded it, many of you have read it. And now the time has come to tell you the tale of Rig and how it came to be. The fact of the matter is, Rig sat on the shelf for quite some time. It was sort of a, truth be told, a holdover book, a leftover book. When I wrote my first novel, Ballad of the Blue Denim Gang, not available as an ebook, thank God, it was, over 500 printed pages of just copy paper. And then afterwards I had a little bit left over, like a little creative energy, and so I wrote my second novel, which is called The Vanished Child, also not available any longer as an ebook, thank you. Years went by before I wrote another novel, and I was working for the worst company in the world to ever work for, a company called Aeon, and it was an awful place of work, and I was so miserable that I would spend time writing my novel, which became Dust, which is available as an ebook, by the way. And that was the serious book. It was a thriller, an intense thriller, and it was, again, a long book, over 300 pages. And afterwards, again, I found myself buzzing with this extra creative energy. And I decided I wanted to write my first real straight-up genre piece. I had written Dust as a kind of a thriller, crime novel, detective story, and yet it became something more than that. I ended up pouring my own philosophy of the world into it, or whatever. And I decided I've always been a fan of horror. I wanted to write a horror novel, and I was thinking, what scares me? And I thought about it for a while, and I couldn't really come up with a concept. And one day, I'm a fan of urban legends, so one day I'm rooting around online looking up urban legends, and I come across one of these famous ones, the Sounds of Hell urban legend. If you're a fan of the Art Bell show, Coast to Coast, you may be familiar with this. The legend goes that there were a bunch of men digging a well in Siberia. It's always Siberia. And they're digging and digging and digging and digging, and all of a sudden the drill starts oscillating wildly. And they pull up the drill, and someone leans over there, and an intense heat is coming out of the hole. It's incredibly hot. And they think that they hear a voice, someone down there screaming for help. And they can't imagine how that could be. And so they end up lowering this super sensitive microphone down there and recording a few seconds of the sound. And when they pull it back up, they hear what sounds like the souls of thousands and thousands of people being brutally tortured in hell. And I stumbled across that, and then I stumbled across this Art Bell show. If you're not familiar with Art Bell, he's a gentleman who used to do an overnight show out of Pahrump, Nevada, out of a home there. I used to hear it was a trailer home. I don't know if that's true or not. He's an interesting fellow. He started off doing like conservative talk. When that didn't go real well, he started drifting into conspiracy theories and urban legends and the paranormal and stuff, and his show became a huge hit. He looks a little bit like Gomez Adams with the little mustache and the hairdo and everything. And he did this thing with the Sounds of Hell, and there was a recording, a supposed recording. And it's late at night. I'm in my townhome out in the suburbs of Chicago, and I have headphones on. And Art Bell's got kind of a creepy sounding voice, and he comes on and talks about the Sounds of Hell, and then plays the sound, and it chilled me to the bone. I mean, it scared the hell out of me. Now, of course, if you listen to it and someone were to set it up by, instead of saying, these are the sounds of hell, were to say, this is the sounds of a particularly crowded mall that I recorded, it kind of also sounds like that, too. But in the middle of the night, with your headphones on, with Art Bell telling you it's the Sounds of Hell, it sounds like the Sounds of Hell. In fact, it sounded a little bit like this. If you're easily disturbed, you may want to tune away. But this is the sound that I heard. There you go. It goes on for a while yet. And then Art comes back and it gets even creepier. So I thought, wow, that's the good basis of a horror novel, if I ever heard it. So what digs? What industry digs? I thought about setting them in Siberia with the well. I thought about putting them somewhere else, digging a well. And then I thought, what about oil rigs? Problem was, at the time, I could not find any information about exactly what makes an oil rig work. There was no details about even what a rig looked like. So I simply invented one. I drifted in the realm of science fiction. And this is how you do this, you young writers. You say, it's the most advanced rig that anyone has ever created, and it has brand new technology that has never been seen before. Once you establish that as the premise, you can put whatever you want on your rig. You can have it shoot lasers or whatever. And so I imagine a gigantic rig, the biggest rig ever made, with an escape system that probably would be pretty impractical, and once you set about it, punching through a hole into hell and becoming possessed by a demon, well, you can have that thing come to life, and you can have demons pop up. You can do whatever you want. And it was a hell of a lot of fun to write, if you pardon the pun. And I thought, you know what, that was a nice exercise, but I don't know if this book is good enough to see the light of day, so it sat on the shelf for some time. And then I decided to do a little experiment and publish it in print first, using a particular company called Publish America, which has a rather dubious reputation. And so it saw the light of day, and it actually got in a couple bookstores, and I sold some copies, and I thought, people actually seem to like this. And then the Kindle came about, and I made it available for Kindle, and lo and behold, it started to sell, and it continues to sell. It is what I consider to be my B-movie book. I think it would make an outstanding B-movie. You know, like, in fact, if any of you out there happen to work for the Sci-Fi Channel, or know anyone who does, you know those movies that they run on Saturdays? They're like Sharktopus and things like that. Mega Shark versus Giant Toad, or whatever it's called. I think this would be a great B movie. I don't consider it particularly high literature. I don't consider it even the greatest horror story ever written. I think it has a few scares. I think it's a hell of a lot of fun to read. It was a hell of a lot of fun to write. And people seem to enjoy it. They come back to it. And all thanks to you, my audience, you have continued to buy up this particular book. Also, I'd like to point out this cover. This cover was designed by a friend of mine. I got to point it the right way. I can kind of get the whole camera angle. By a friend of mine named Erin Engelman. And she is a great designer. And if you are a writer looking for a cover designer, I'd suggest contacting Erin. Let's get her started in a whole new career just designing book covers. I really think it's that cover that has sold more copies of this book than the story itself. So I have a big thank you out to Erin. So that is the story of Rig. It's available for Kindle, Nook, and now at the Google eBook Store. And I hope you download it. I hope you read it. Hope you enjoy it. And thank you for your time.